Yeah, I'm not sure if you guys have heard. I'm sure you guys have heard, if anyone is keeping up with Colorado football, that Shedeur's back was fractured, a broken back. Not completely broken, but fractured. That's crazy. That's insane that the guy was playing on a fractured back. The injury didn't happen in one game. The injury already happened. He played with that fractured back for about 3 to 4 games. When the guy was having a hard time walking, go back and look at the past games. When he would get hit and he would get up with this kind of limp. That's signs of either an ankle or lower leg injury or back injury. Because we all know the spine is very pivotal to your gait and to your balance. Without your, and I say spine because that's all part of your back. Anytime you injure or a back muscle or a backbone, it's going to affect the way you walk, because all of those things are interconnected. Once one thing is out of whack, then it actually completely derails your walking ability. But I say all that to say this. That's Coach Prime's fault. And I know you ignorant people are going to say it's the offensive line's fault. It's not the offensive line's fault. That's the scapegoat. If you are a coach of a team, if you know your offensive line is not that great and they can't hold the defensive line for 5+ seconds, because that's the amount of time that Shedeur needed. Why do I say that? Shedeur wasn't getting the ball out of his hands quickly. Now, on certain plays he would, but most of the hits that he took were based upon them having 5 wideouts. What does that mean when you have 5 wideouts? It means that you have 5 options. And when you have 5 options, you need to look at all your 5 options. When you're looking at your 5 options, it takes time when you're scanning the field looking at all your options. So it's the philosophy. It's the offensive scheme. Many people are pointing the finger at Sean Lewis, but like I said, I'm a thinker. It's not that simple. It's not all on Sean Lewis. If you look at the first TCU game, even though, yeah, they threw the ball many, but the formations were different. It seemed like they had more protection for Shedeur. And because Shedeur had great success in that TCU game, Coach Prime went ballistic. He just went crazy and said, hey, we're going to put the ball in my son's hands and create his statistics to make the push for the Heisman. So therefore, after that first game, I'm assuming Coach Prime thought this was going to be an easy goal or easy endeavor, just to come in your first year in a Power 5 conference and just automatically just dominate. And he did win the first 3 games. But again, those first 3 games to me were they weren't, I'm not saying it didn't show how good, it showed how good Colorado could be, but those 3 wins were misleading. Okay, they were misleading. So the blame goes to Coach Prime on his son's back being fractured. It's sort of like when you're playing, and anyone who knows about the game NBA 2K, when you go to you create my player. This is the option when you get to choose you get to create your own player. You can actually choose the way the player looks. You can choose how tall you want the player to be. You could choose left hand, right hand. I mean, you pretty much are a scientist in a laboratory creating your player. And when you create this player, you have a goal in mind. You put this player through so many obstacles that the player has to go through. The game has designed those paths and obstacles that you have to take. You have to dominate these certain challenges. And the more challenges you dominate, the better attributes are given to the player. And the player is trying to work hard to get to the NBA. When the player gets to the NBA, you continue to control that player because he's your player, hence the term my player. So when you have that player on your you get to control it, control him. And you get to have these certain milestones that you're trying to reach. You're trying to be the next greatest thing. Whether you're comparing the my player to a Jordan, a Kobe, or a LeBron James. You have these milestones that you're trying to reach. Okay? Because everybody who comes into the NBA, they have aspirations, they have goals, especially if they're good. But when you have the controls in your hand and you get to create the my player, then you can dream as big as you want because the game is in your hand. That's exactly what Coach Prime did with his son. He didn't have to create the way his son looked. Genetics did that because that's his son. Biologically, that's his son. So the DNA and the phenotypes and the physiological traits of his son resemble the father because that's the father biologically. DNA does not lie. So that part was taken care of. Son's about 6'1", 6'2", over 200 pounds. Genetics and DNA took care of that. So Prime didn't have to go in the lab and create that. That came out of him, okay, because that's his seed. That part's taken care of. Now the son is playing football. The son's not playing the defensive back position like his father. He's not doing that. He's playing quarterback. I get to create a player. My son, Sanders. Oh my God. He's a good quarterback. I've been coaching him since he was in Pee Wee football. He's going to be great. Fast forward, son comes to a Power 5 conference after showing his talents at the HBCU level. Just like LeBron took his talents to Miami, Shedeur took his talents to Colorado. The difference is, with Shedeur taking his talents to Colorado, the impediment, and I believe that the hindrance to Shedeur's success is the father. The father's inability to see football for what it is. He's looking at football as a video game. I'm not trying to be funny. The reason why I'm making this video game analogy is because it's apropos. It's appropriate. It fits the bill of what I'm trying to get across to you guys. It's exactly what he did. But the difference is when things don't go your way in a video game, you can just reset it and quit and start over again to have the end goal of what you want, right? So you have an end goal in mind. And so you're going to do whatever you can to make sure it happens. Well, Prime couldn't press the reset button after losing games consecutively. He had to just eat that. But the disconnect with Coach Prime, and I know many of you guys believe in him, but you guys are giving him too much. You guys are putting too much faith and belief in him. You guys are giving him the benefit of the doubt, and I don't think you guys should do that. You should just go by the end product. When something doesn't go your way in real life, we make adjustments. We can't push the reset button, which is why decision making is very critical in life. As an adult, or even as a teenager, anybody, life and death are all based upon the decisions we make. Sometimes we make good decisions and bad things come from it. Sometimes we make bad decisions and good things come from it, but everything's based on decisions. We try to make the best decisions to project a probability or a higher rate of success that comes from those decisions that we make. So unlike a video game, when you make a decision in life, it's almost like a tattoo. An end result is going to come from that. Now, you have to learn from those results. If those results are not working, or if those results are not benefiting your goal, or benefiting your team, or benefiting your family, or benefiting anything in life. This is just a general message this is a life message. This is more than just football that I'm talking about here. So if you make a decision and that decision doesn't bode well for you, it's okay. We're not perfect beings. We're not computerized. What we try to do is learn from our errors, and we try to make decisions next time based upon the errors that we've made in the past to set ourselves up on a trajectory of success, right? So when you look at what Coach Prime did, because life is not a video game, he continued to push the narrative of Shedeur, creating an offensive scheme that predicated everything on his son's talents and his arm ability. Even when LeBron James went to Miami, it wasn't all about LeBron James. They had to utilize the team. They had to use the three-point shooters that they had. They had to get rebounders. There were different aspects of that Miami Heat team that allowed LeBron James to be successful. And I'm not even mentioning Dwayne Wade, but we all know how talented he was. So there are many parts to the Colorado team that are not being utilized, because that's analogous to, let's say for an example that the coach for LeBron James was the father. Let's say it wasn't Spoelstra. And the coach was like, oh no, I want LeBron James to bring the ball down every time and ISO ball for LeBron. Similar to the way James Harden plays. And that's why James Harden, his success in Houston was limited. Though he had great statistics, but playing that way is not going to translate to championships. When it's 1-on-5, no matter how great that one is, You're not going to break down a team in a 7-game series that has time to plan for you. The playoffs are extremely intense, far different from how the regular season goes in terms of NBA play. Now let's go to that analogy that I was talking about with LeBron. So let's say LeBron's father is the coach of Miami Heat, and he says, "Hey, it's my son. He's great," and we all can see that LeBron is great. So there's no issue initially with the father wanting the ball to be in his son's hand because we know the son's great. Same thing with Shedeur. We know Shedeur is great. He's a good quarterback. He's accurate. He has good touch on the ball. He's a great anticipatory thrower. He throws guys open. He doesn't have the fastest of arms, but he has a decent enough arm. And he's a good quarterback. And we all can see that. So we have no problem initially when Coach Prime was being pass heavy. When he had an imbalanced offense, we had no issue at it initially because he was winning. And that to me was the delusion that was used to cast an aspersion upon the people who were following Colorado, making us believe that, hey, this could work because they were winning. Winning has a way of masking the stench, of masking the foul odor or the foul things that are going on within a team's dynamic. When you win, it's like all else is good because, hey, they won. Sometimes the outcome doesn't necessarily always justify the means. We understand in life that you can make horrible decisions. You just happen to get, I don't believe in luck, but you just happen to just be in the right place at the right time. And then coincidentally, the stars are aligned. The universe, destined finds you, and fate happens, and boom, success happens. Not predicated on what you did. It's just predicated on what was supposed to be. You were destined to be successful. So going back to the LeBron James comparison, so LeBron James' father is the coach for Miami Heat. So he said, put the ball in my son's hand, clear out, ISO ball. And he's going to penetrate, because we all know LeBron James is a great passer, so he's going to penetrate, and if you double him, he's going to kick out to three-point shooters. And let's say that's what they did every time they came down the floor. There was no variation within the offensive schemes. There were no other play calls that were made, no back cuts, no screen, no motions. No pin downs. It was just all LeBron, ISO ball, break you down. Kind of how James Harden played when he played for Houston Rockets. That's what Coach Prime did with Shedeur. And you cannot do that with football. I would argue and say football is the number one sport where you need. Now, if I was writing this, I would put this in caps. Need in caps. When you need your teammates. You are nothing without your offensive and defensive lines. And we saw that. Illustrated with Colorado. Prime example. We saw that. All right. Exhibit A. We saw it. You know why we saw it? Because the outcome, it shows what happened. Shedeur, fractured back. That's insane. I don't think you guys understand the pain that you feel from a fractured back. The fact that he was still playing shows you the mental toughness of that kid. So if anyone wants to question the passion and the will for Shedeur, no one should question that anymore. The guy's a monster. He just plays quarterback. You know, when Coach Prime talks about getting dogs, his son is a dog. His son proved it. But I don't think that was a wise thing for Coach Prime to do, to continue to play your son when he was injured and hurt. The season was over with. I kept telling you guys that they were going to lose out. I mean, when the ship is sinking, you know the ship is sinking. Like, I'm not a psychic. It wasn't like I had to go in the room and think really hard about it. I told you guys, game after game, they're going to lose out, and that's exactly what happened. So, Coach Prime is playing NCAA 2K Shedeur 2023. If I could make the video game, they would have Shedeur's face on the cover, holding a football, with somebody trying to sack him, and him getting ready to throw the ball as he cocks his hands back. That would be the thumbnail for the cover of the game. And it would be called NCAA 2K Shedeur. And you'll have the image of Coach Prime in the back smiling with his glasses on and his hoodie and his chain. Because the reason why I would have the game that way, because the father in the background is the culprit. He's the mastermind behind this whole thing. This idea that that the offensive coordinator came with the philosophy. I was listening to an interview on Jason Whitlock's channel. They had some guy from Colorado, this big white guy, I forgot his name. It was a show that came on recently. I think it came on yesterday. And the guy was saying, yeah, the philosophy of the offensive coordinator. No, it's a philosophy of Coach Prime. See, people are afraid to say the truth. I'm not saying that, I've never said that Coach Prime was an offensive coordinator or he was an offensive mind. He handpicked the people he wanted to run the offense. He handpicked Sean Lewis. We understand that. When you handpick your offensive coaches, you have to allow them to run the scheme that best fits their mode of thinking, their philosophy. Every coach has a philosophy. But you have to understand that when you have a football team, there's hierarchy involved. There's order of command. There's a chain of command. Yes, we understand that as coaches, you hire coaches to delegate. Yeah, Nick Saban, he trusts his offensive coordinators to delegate. But when things are not going right, if Nick Saban had a son at quarterback, and Nick Saban saw that his son was getting beat the hell up because due to the offensive schemes that were being called, don't you think that Nick Saban would step in and say, hey, man, we got to change the philosophy of the team? Nod your head, yes, guys, exactly. He would do that. And you guys think that that's what Coach Prime did. That's not what he did. Coach Prime is very clever. I keep telling you guys, he came from media. He's been part of media. He was an athlete and he went to media. He understands how to manipulate the media. He's not an idiot. So the demotion of Sean Lewis, again, as I've said before, was just a way to make you guys think that, hey, I'm trying to do something about our offense. But in actuality, he never demoted Sean Lewis. Sean Lewis wanted to step down because Sean Lewis could not run the offense the way Sean Lewis wanted to run the offense. If you look at the history of Sean Lewis, he runs a balanced offense, much more balanced than what we saw in Colorado. So which looks like it's more true? Which looks like it's more true? That Coach Prime wants the ball taken out of his son's hands and to have a balanced offense? Or Coach Prime wants the ball in his son's hands to pad the stats of his son to make sure that his son gets drafted in the first round and to make sure that his son is talked about in the Heisman talks and possibly wins the Heisman. Which one seems to be more plausible? I think the latter is true. Now you may say, why do you say that? You don't have any proof. Yeah, we have proof. Look at the press conferences with Coach Prime when they're asking him about next season. When he's talking about recruits, just listen to what he said. He keeps talking about his son. He keeps talking about the things that his son needs. No, it's not all about your son. It's not called Shedeur Buffaloes, Coach Prime. It's called Colorado Buffaloes. You have to do what's in the best interest of the entire team and take your personnel and coach towards your personnel. So I take everything that I get. I gather information cleverly and I make my own decision. I don't go off of what a man says. I go off what you say and also go off what I see and I go off what you do. It's a three-pronged approach here. All right? It's a three-pronged approach because what you say could be a lie and it could be validated by what I see happening and by what you do. Because actions, as we all know, speaks louder than what? Words. The demotion of Sean Lewis was a media ploy. It was a media manipulative tactic to make you guys believe that Coach Prime is stepping in to make a change. What did we see happen differently when Pat Schumer came in? When Shedeur was the quarterback? Nothing changed. They were the same. The only thing that changed was the last game of the season when Shedeur was no longer the quarterback. All of a sudden we saw that Colorado actually became a little bit more balanced. They ran the ball a little bit more. Got the ball out of the quarterback's hands quicker. Not trying to pad his stats with long passes to accumulate yards to say that Shedeur is passing for 500 and 600 yards per game. We didn't have that happening because Shedeur was not in the game. So padding Shedeur's stats was irrelevant because Shedeur was not playing. It was another quarterback. So who cares about the backup quarterback stats? Now we're going to go back to playing logical football. And that's exactly what Colorado did. They actually looked better. Even though they lost, they looked like a competent team somewhat. What we saw with Shedeur was I'm not trying to curse, was a freaking clown show. Was a clown show. The boy was just dropping back, shotgun. I'm like, goodness gracious. My 4-year-old child could predict what you guys were doing. She's only been on this planet for 4 years. Daddy, they're passing a lot. They throw the ball a lot. Because I talked to her about football. I said, that's a run play. That's a pass play. Daddy, are they going to do another pass play? I'm like, yeah, most likely. Dang, Daddy, they did another pass play. They pass a lot. My daughter said that. And she's 4 damn years old. So what do you think a grown man that's his job, that's his occupation, to decipher your offense and plan against it? There's not much planning. I don't think defensive coordinators were losing sleep when they were getting ready to play Colorado Buffaloes. They slept very well because Coach Prime and your ignorance and your my player NCAA 2K mentality got your son's back fractured. Literally a broken back because of you. And yet you're still airheaded. Oh, we all know what he needs. The question was about recruits for next year. Things to make your team overall better. You're not talking about the trenches. You're still predicating everything based upon your son. So it's not everything you're doing is towards your son. That's what I mean by selfishness. And when Cavassier Smoke, listen to me, guys. Go back to the comment that Cavassier Smoke made when he talked about people being selfish. Isn't that statement starting to resonate with you guys now? Who do you think he was referring to? Who do you think Cavassier Smoke was referring to? Do you think he was referring to certain players? You guys said that because everyone doesn't want to push the button that needs to be pushed. It's about Prime. But no one wants to say it. Even the guy that was on Jason Whitlock's show yesterday, he didn't want to push back on Prime. He kept going around in circles, talking about, oh, the offensive coordinator, or, gotta have more substance. Put it on Coach Prime. Say he needs to change. When Cavassier Smoke made the statement that selfish ball, you know what he was talking about. I knew what he was talking about. But if I said it, you're hating. Or you don't know what you're talking about. You're a black man putting on another black man down. You guys sound ignorant because I'm sticking to substance and I'm talking about content within the context of the football team. This is not about race. Being black doesn't absolve me from having common sense. I'm not going to put my brain on the back burner and just go around like a brain dead zombie and just affiliate myself with somebody wholeheartedly off of emotion based upon impulse. That's how kids think. My frontal lobe is actually corrected and it's fixed and it's matured and I'm going to utilize it because it's the brain that I have. I encourage you guys to do the same thing. When Cavassier Smoke talked about selfishness, that the team could have been better, he's talking about Coach Prime and his selfish endeavor to pad the stats of his son to make sure that his son is put in a position of success above all, above the success of the team. I told you guys this, and it seems like it's clickbait, or that I'm giving some kind of outlandish take to I don't know, to get more clicks, but I'm not doing that. When I made the statement and said this, that even if the team lost 7 of its last 8 games, or however games that they lost toward the end, if Shedeur's stats were great, Coach Prime would be okay. Internally, he would be okay, but he would go around and talk about what everybody else needs to do. What he would do, he would throw everybody else under the bus and prop up his son as being the only one that's a competent player on the team. And he's already kind of did that underhandedly because he still keeps talking about what Shedeur needs. So in other words, it's everybody else's fault. My son is the Louis luggage. His son is the Louis luggage, folks. Are you guys starting to see? When he says I'm bringing my Louis luggage, he was talking about his son. His son is the Louis luggage. His son is the biggest bag of the luggage. Now, he has other small little handbags that he brought. I think that Travis Hunter is another big handbag, not as big as his son. Because we all know blood is thicker than water. No matter how much he calls Travis Hunter his son, that's not his biological son. He loves him. He loves Travis Hunter because Travis Hunter is like his project. Travis Hunter is like a prodigy of of Prime. He always talks about, if anybody reminds me of me, it's him. So he loves Travis Hunter, but you can never love another person like you love your own child. I have children. No matter how much I care about another kid, I'm never gonna fall in love with another kid the way I'm in love with my own children. It's just that's just DNA. That's just genetics. I can't help that. That's out of my heart. It's out of my loins. Out of my seed. It's me. It's a carbon copy of me genetically. Okay. So if I love myself, I'm gonna love my children. I'm gonna love what comes out of me. But that's what Coach Prime is doing. He's making it all about his team. How about next year? What about the decommits? Well, we all know what my son needs. What? We're talking about the people that are decommitting from coming to Colorado to play football for Colorado, and you're talking about what your son needs. So it's all about your son. So going back to the video game analogy, it's all about that my player. See, when you're playing a video game, you can have that type of philosophy, but when you're playing real life is not a video game. We're talking about a grown man that's 56 years old and he cannot get that. So when people are talking down about Prime, it's not that people are insulting him or people are being negative. They're just looking at the outcomes of the decisions that he's making. They're looking at what he's saying. They're looking at what he's doing. They're looking at the evidence of the play on the football field. They're looking at the whole offensive scheme. They're looking at things that are happening in the locker room. And these are all the things that Coach Prime brought upon himself. You're the one that's bringing all the media attention. You don't have to have well-off media videotaping your stuff. You've allowed people to have a lot of content because of it. I mean, I'm having content because of it. Because when you open up the windows of your home and you open up the doors of your home, you're allowing people to come inside your house to critique it. So take the critique. You want all the attention. You want all the fame, all the glitter. You want all the money. You want all of that stuff. He keeps talking about the audience, the attendance rate of the football games was increased. That's great. But did you win games? You hardly won. You brought Louis Luggage to only win 4 games to still end up being last in the Pac-12. To me, that's not a successful season. And they asked that question to the guy that Jason Whitlock was talking to yesterday. I forgot the guy's name. He used to play for Colorado back in the early 2000s. I think in 2004. It's a big guy. I think he played on I don't know if he played on the offensive line or the defensive line. And the guy made some good points. I just didn't agree with the fact that he didn't push back hard on Coach Prime. He needs to be pushed. And of course, if he shuts you down, let him shut you down. A lot of people still want access to Prime. So they're hesitant to critique anything that he does. So, those people who have things to lose, they tend to tread lightly when they talk about Coach Prime because they don't want to take the backlash. Because, if you say anything that's critical against Coach Prime, you're deemed to be some kind of hater. No, man. He's opened up the door to his house, to his football house, and allowed the world to come in and see it. And if you're going to allow the world to come in and see your home, you better make sure your home is clean. You better make sure it's in a pristine state where it looks like a model home. And your locker room is far from a model locker room. DJs in the locker room, celebrities in the locker room. There's too much damn distractions. It's not all about football. And I think that the decommits, based upon the show, even when I watched Jason Whitlock's show, it made sense. People are decommitting because they're starting to see, man, okay, the luster and the shine that initially was posed there was attractive. It's the attractive girl with the nice body, all right, nice height, nice shape, nice everything. Well, after you date her, you realize that she has no substance. She can't think. She doesn't bring anything to the table. I mean, she's nice. She looks good on your arms. She's a trophy wife material, but in terms of her substance and what she brings to the table, she brings nothing to the table. And I think that's what people started to see with Colorado football. And that's what young athletes started to see. I don't blame a young 16, 17, 18-year-old from wanting to go to Colorado. Hell, I'm a grown-ass man, and when this initially started, I wanted to go to Colorado. I wanted to go watch a game in Colorado. I was all in. But after seeing how, when something, I always say this if you look at my past videos, anything that burns quickly, anything that starts off hot quickly will burn quickly. And it started too hot. The rise to success was too quick. Do you believe now? Do you believe now? I keep receipts. All of that stuff. Slow down, Brian. Slow down. It's a video game to him. I created my player, and I'm dominating in the video game. I'm about to dominate. No, this is real life, buddy. You got to dominate with humility. And you're managing men. And you're building a culture. And the culture you built, Prime, is not conducive to success. And you're going to see it. And this is why I believe that next season will be worse than this season. The big if is if they don't change their offensive philosophy, they're still going to be bad next year. if they change their offensive philosophy, they're still going to be bad. They may win a little bit more games, but they're not going to be what you think they're going to be, this dominant team. Because if you watch any show, whether it's On3, the On3 YouTube channel that talks about the recruits that are coming to Colorado, if you just look at the whole recruiting landscape for Colorado right now, it's not looking good. And it's not looking good at all, because not only are players decommitting, but I don't even know if Prime is doing anything about seeking out those dogs. If he expects players just to come because he's Prime, because that's what he said, I ain't hard to find. I ain't hard to find. No, you are going to be hard to find, Prime, because players are not going to be wanting to come there. You're going to have to go find them. Welcome to college football, Coach Prime, where you have to actually get on the plane and go recruit players. And people say, well, he's done it before. Yes, he's done it before, but not in this way. This is going to be very humbling for Coach Prime, because usually he can just get people to come to him. He markets from afar. His social media platform and everything that he does with Well-Off Media and with his sons and everything else, that was the attraction to bring young athletes there. But people are starting to see this is all shine and no substance, because yeah, you can manipulate the minds of young people to want to come to a place, but then time will always reveal the truth. And as time went on, we started to see that, hey, this thing that's going on here in Colorado is not going to be sustainable for long term. And that's exactly what happened. It's exactly what's happening. And if you think that you're going to just get a bunch of guys through the portal and you're going to win, you got another thing coming, Brian. So right now, the way it looks, it doesn't look good for Colorado. And that's why I say I believe that it's done. It's done. He's leaving after next year. I'll be very shocked if he stays after next year. Very, very shocked. Very, very shocked. Very, very shocked. All right, that's my spiel, guys. The fractured back of his son, Shedeur, is brought on by the father's arrogance, lack of humility, and the emotional attachment that he has to his son. And no, people say it's hard for a coach to coach your own son, but I always believe and thought that Coach Prime would be better than that. That he's too much of a football head. He played football at the highest level. He'll be too smart to allow what we see happening to happen. But he's human. He's flawed like all of us. He's not perfect. And sometimes the emotions we have towards our children can cloud judgment. It's hard to coach your son, especially when your son has the ball in his hands every play, and then he's good. It's one thing if the son was not that good. Then it's like, oh, come on, man. Come on, coach. Get him out of there. But he's good. So, that connection with his son is almost as if he's living, vicariously through his son. Because that's what Prime would do. If it was about Prime, it's about me. But it can't be about you. You have to actually take, just like, before the games, when you see Coach Prime pacing, he walks with his son and they walk back and he's having that talk with him. And he says that when they get to a certain yard line, that's when he stops being dad and he starts being coach. I would love to see Coach Prime walk with his team that way. And they all walk with him. Walk with the team. Whenever you do that with your son, it sends a message to the rest of the team that it's about your son. It's more than your son, coach. You got to coach every kid like they are your sons. Those are all your little children. And I know it's going to be hard to do because you only really have one biological. Well, you have two. You have Shiloh, you have Shedeur. But you have to treat everyone. That's what good football coaches do. They pour their hearts into those kids as if those kids were their own sons. That's what differentiates a good coach from just a coach that's just there with their own personal agendas. I can't see Coach Prime coach. He's always coached his son. I can't see him coaching Colorado without his sons. That's what he's used to. Will he still have the same passion and drive as he has now? The only reason why he's talking the way he does and does all that, do you believe now, do you see, is because his son's there. Do you believe in me? In other words, do you believe in me and my son? Do you believe in my son now? Is my son my son? It's the father that's pushing his son. Every father has done it. Every father has done it. You talk highly about your son. LeVar Ball did it with Lonzo Ball. Every father talks highly about their own child. No father gets on television and says, yeah, my son sucks. No. Even if your son is not that good, you're still going to prop up the positive things that your son can do. So I think that's clouding the judgment of Colorado football. And I think that's going to be the detriment of Colorado football. So this Coach Prime experience is done. It's done. I think you guys got to accept it. It's too many ifs. If they do this, if they do that, if they can do this, it's too many ifs. All those ifs not going to be answered next year. And then once Shedeur leaves next year, there's still going to be ifs. Coach Prime is not that patient. If you look at his track record, he doesn't stay in places too long. Especially if he's not winning, if it's not going his way. And if it's not going to help him benefit his own agenda. See, he used Jackson State as a stepping stool to get here, to get to the Power 5 conference. He dominated there, but he's not going to dominate in the Power 5 conference. And he's going to leave. He's going to go to a place where he can dominate. Or he may not even coach. I don't know what his future is going to be, but it's not going to be in Colorado. All right, thank you guys for listening. And leave a comment. Tell me what you guys think. Whose fault is it about in terms of Shedeur getting his back fractured? I know injuries happen. But the amount of hits he took, whose fault is it? Is it who's to blame? And if you had a pie chart, if you had a pie graph, who does most of the blame go to? I say it goes to the head coach because he's the head coach of the team. The philosophy of the team has to come from the head coach. He may not be the one drawing up the plays, but what the head coach wants is what goes. So to me, the bulk of the blame goes to the head coach. 70%, 75 to 80% goes on the head coach. The other 20 or 25% goes to many different parts. The offensive line, the certain players not blocking right, and all this other stuff. But the majority of it goes to Coach Prime to me. So tell me what you guys think. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Whose fault is it that Shedeur Sanders has a fractured back this season and played with the fractured back? That's even, you don't understand how much that guy's a warrior. That guy's a warrior. They don't build him like that anymore. The fact that he was even playing with that's crazy. But tell me what you guys think. All right, thank you guys for listening. All right, bye.